Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé I am not willing to lie about how we met to her family and friends? Am I the a-hole for not wanting to go to my sister's wedding? Am I the a-hole for purposely avoiding having breakfast with my husband and demanding to know why he was still home? Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé I am not willing to lie about how we met to her family and friends? I met my fiancé online on a dating app. We have been together for 2 years now and got engaged recently. However, she keeps telling me that during the wedding, she wants me to give a speech talking about how I met her while she was working at a coffee shop, and I was so attracted to her that it was love at first sight, and I immediately asked her to be my girlfriend. She says that this makes her look better and will make her look good to her friends. If I say that she was so beautiful that I immediately asked her out. To clarify, she is saying I have to say that I asked her to be my GF right at the counter without even having any sort of conversation with her first. The only problem is I feel uncomfortable with this untrue version of events. I am happy to say she is beautiful and that I really love her personality and that we had a great connection, but I am uncomfortable with this portrayal of myself as some sort of creep who asked a complete stranger to be my girlfriend. There are other lies that she wants me to go along with too. For example, I inherited a house from my grandparents, but she is asking me to tell her friends and family that I myself paid for and bought her the house because she is so special. After I said no, she has been saying that I care more about the opinions of other people than how she feels, and that she is reconsidering if she wants to be with someone who isn't on her side. Do I have a point or does she? Just to be clear, my fiancé said that the reason she wants me to do the speech and tell people I bought her a house is so that her friends will envy her. She has already told her friends and families those things. But it's another thing to want me to actually talk about them and lie about these things. She knows that my friends and family know I inherited the house and that we met on a dating app. But she says I have to warn them not to say anything and pretend to believe me at the wedding. She gave me an ultimatum that we won't get married if I don't agree and hasn't talked to me for days. It looks like I'm not the a-hole based on responses. How can I get her to see the light?
She is threatening not to marry him unless he lies so she can make her friends jealous. That shit right there. That's a red flag the size of New Jersey. It's one thing to tactfully not talk about how you met or financial things. She could even lie to her friends about random things, and it would be weird, but maybe benign. Outright lying in a wedding speech, though. That's gross. And threatening to not enter what is supposed to be a long-term partnership is not a good sign. If you're in a situation where one partner says there is a condition for marriage, that's a good reason to look at whether or not marriage is a good idea. Because if being someone's spouse hinges on them changing an existing behavior or some sort of transactional thing, it doesn't bode well for that union. If she cares that much about impressing her friends, I promise it won't stop there. Newer better material acquisitions will likely be a priority. She might only even be considering marriage in the first place to keep up appearances. Saying she won't marry you without these conditions pretty much shows that a large part of her motivation is already to show off. Holding something that should also be important to her hostage to manipulate you into doing what she wants is a pretty big warning sign of what's to come. NTA, and I'd have serious reservations about this. At minimum, I'd call her bluff because that is troubling behavior. NTA, I would find it concerning that she is asking you to lie about several things that really should not matter in the grand scheme of things in order to change her narrative. Meanwhile, she is saying your honesty is you valuing others' opinions above her feelings when she is exactly valuing others' opinions and their envy above your values, being an honest person. The other matter of concern is that she is saying that she might not want to marry you if you are not willing to lie for her. If it were me, beyond the obviously manipulative aspect of it, I would wonder what she has lied to me about. I would wonder if this is what she asks of people who are close to her, what she asks them to lie about for her. However, you know her best. Perhaps she is a virtuous and otherwise completely honest person with a very strange insecurity. But what I would hope is that she is someone who would want to be with you for who you are, the best version of you, and not because of some narrative that she is trying to create. Edit. Added the text in the last parenthesis because I forgot to type it the first time. NTA seriously considered doing premarital counseling. It sounds like she cares way more about appearances than she does your feelings or comfort levels, and this seems like a red flag to me. People who encourage lying don't see it as a big deal, which is another red flag. Why isn't the truth of your reality good enough for her? Why does she want your life to be a Hallmark movie? Does she love and respect you for exactly who you are, or has she been telling people embellishments and doesn't want you to contradict her tales in front of everyone she's lied to?
Am I the a-hole for not wanting to go to my sister's wedding? My sister is getting married next month. My husband and I were both planning on going, but when we got the invitation, it was only for me. When I called my sister and asked about it, she said my husband was of course fine to come, but she requested that he not be in any family photos. My husband is in a wheelchair. I've been married to him for 8 years. He has been in a wheelchair since he was 16, and my family has always ever known him to be in his chair. Apparently, my sister doesn't want him in any of her wedding photos because she is afraid that he'll take attention away from her because he is different. She justifies this by saying, when people come over and see our family photo, they always ask about him because he's the only one that is in the wheelchair. So he stands out. She says she wants to be the main focus in her photos. I was livid. I went off on her and told her she was being selfish bridezilla. I told her we wouldn't be coming. I've been getting calls from parents and relatives telling me I need to apologize to my sister because now she's upset. I'm angry at them thinking it's okay to leave my husband out of a family photo because of his disability. My husband hates being a burden on people and he says he's fine with not being in the photos, which made me even angrier because now he feels bad about himself for something I feel is unwarranted. Am I the a-hole if I don't support my sister's big day because of this? My husband says we should be there for family even if he can't be in the photos. My family says I need to apologize. But I feel like this is an issue I need to fight for. Am I wrong?
Oh my God. NTA. NTA at all. Not only should you refuse to go, I'd send the invitation back to her in an envelope, torn up in little pieces. Apparently, your sister has the maturity depth of a very shallow mud puddle. So here's what I'd send her, after you ignore your family and the wedding is over, sans you and your husband. Hey sis. Now that you've entered the bonds of matrimony, maybe you'll understand the depth of hurt you caused me and my husband, your brother-in-law. I will tell you that you asking me to exclude him from family photos was a form of rejection of my spouse that no loyal wife would ever stand for. If you don't understand this, well, I'm sorry, but your marriage may be doomed before it has barely begun. In sickness and in health, right? If you ever want a relationship with me again, you will need to apologize to my husband first and ask his forgiveness, and then to me. If you have no inclination to do so, then I pity you and your new family. Personally, I want to commend you for being true to your commitment as a spouse and for the loyalty you have shown him. Great job, OP. If your family doesn't get this basic understanding of marital loyalty, well, they may be the root cause of your sister's immaturity and, frankly, cruelty. Their pressuring you is grossly misplaced loyalty, aka disloyalty. Good luck. Stay strong. Stand your ground. PP4. Wow. I have to be super careful with my wording because we're not allowed to insult anyone in any way on this sub. You're NTA in any way, shape, or form. This is something you should fight for, and it also makes me sad as a disabled person that your husband would be that worried about being a burden on others. I completely understand, though. I can't believe none of your family are willing to stand behind your husband and instead they're telling you to apologize to your sister. I think you have the right view on this. NTAH, your husband must be incredibly charismatic and handsome for your sister to think he could possibly outshine a bride at her wedding. As for your sister, I wonder if she has yet to figure out that she has backed herself into a corner with her breathlessly rude request. If you go without your husband, the reason why will come out. Hell, I'd be the one telling everyone. If you and your husband don't go, the reason will eventually be found out by family and friends. Your sister is not going to emerge from the occasion smelling of roses. Meanwhile, the whole issue of wedding photos will be moot in a few years when the couple gets a divorce, since someone so immature and insecure as your sister isn't going to do well keeping a marriage going. So, if your sister should apologize, you and your husband could forgive her, but you owe her nothing at this point in time. NTA She wants to exclude your husband because she thinks his chair will distract people in the photos. If you went and people ask where your husband is, are you meant to be silent about her not wanting her brother-in-law there because he is in a wheelchair and she didn't want him in the photos? I'm sure if you did tell the other guests that would take the spotlight off her special day and shine a light on the type of person she more so than having someone in a wheelchair attend the event. Does her future husband and in-laws know how she treats family? For those in the family who are pressuring you to go ask if the bride told them not to bring their partners or children, or if they did they couldn't be in photos because they had what she perceives to be a visual imperfection, or will take the focus off the happy couple would they attend. Chances are they wouldn't want to leave their family members behind either. Your sister needs to apologize for being so discriminatory to your husband and to you, and if she is genuinely upset she needs to have a good think on why she is upset. Is it because she won't get the photos she wants, or because her conscience is giving her a twinge because of her actions? NTA. It's such a remarkably selfish thing to think it's okay to not want family in a photo because of how they exist in the world. It's not just selfish, but it's also cruel and makes your husband feel terrible. Don't go to that wedding, your husband will feel so awful the whole time, and it's so uncomfortable, and there's just no way to make that better. I also have to say, I don't understand why people who have these beliefs can't critical think through them better. So first, totally do not agree with your sister in any way, but if I did think like her, I would realize that as the bride, I can do the wedding pictures in 1,000 different ways, and can have plenty of photos without husband in them, have him in some of course, and frame the ones without him, stick the full family photo in the back corner. It's no surprise that bigoted people are also not that bright, but it never ceases to amaze me that they can't hide it better.
Am I the a-hole for purposely avoiding having breakfast with my husband and demanding to know why he was still home? I'm 5 months pregnant. For the bulk of my pregnancy, I have had issues with keeping food down, especially in the morning. My husband doesn't understand this and accused me of starving myself and being on a fad diet. I tried to eat more to get him to stop multiple times, but it always caused me to throw up. That, and the general state of our marriage, made me start to intentionally avoid having breakfast with him. I know his schedule, so it was very easy for me to oversleep until he had left the house or gone into his home office for the day. He finally figured out I was faking it because this morning he was waiting in the kitchen for me when I woke up. My reaction wasn't the best because I wasn't expecting him to be home, so he scared me, but I demanded to know why he was still home and told him he had to leave. He wouldn't and said he knew what game I was playing and we were going to have breakfast together today. We did end up having breakfast together. I tried to avoid it, but he wouldn't budge. And in the end, he told me that we would be talking to the doctor about my lack of appetite since I still ate less than a child, and from now on, there wouldn't be more oversleeping. I plan to continue to oversleep though. Am I the a-hole?
From an uneducated man's point of view, it might seem like you're starving yourself because he doesn't see you eat breakfast and then goes to work, so he doesn't see you eat anything during the day either. He needs to be educated about morning sickness and eating habits during pregnancy. But instead of trying to have an adult conversation with him, you've been pretending to sleep in to avoid him. This just makes the situation worse because now he's convinced you're being underhanded about something. Go to the doctor together so you both can be on the same page. And if you're really feeling that sick, the doctor can probably help you with that too. Edit to say ESH. I think that addition is definitely skewing people. If she does feel like this is an abusive situation, I don't understand why she's here and has been telling her doctor during her whole pregnancy to document it and get her help. Every appointment, ultrasound, blood test, other tests, birth and after I was asked repeatedly if I felt safe and supported and if I need help. Why hasn't she brought this up at all? Even the morning sickness. They can do a lot these days to help as I had horrible morning sickness throughout my entire pregnancy. They can also give you information to share with your partner about such things to ease their mind. My partner was with me for nearly all my appointments and asked his questions to fill gaps in his knowledge about literally all things relating to pregnancy and birth because he trusted the information from actual doctors rather than Googling, and I was happy for him educating himself. But I was still alone enough through all appointments to be asked if I needed help or was being abused. This post just reeks of two people who are just not communicating with anyone and not doing all they can for this baby. Both seem to be acting so horribly. And I think that ESH because again this is something to be talked with your doctors about. Thinking everything has to be his way and he knows what's best. Yes, that's normal for him. To explain why it's on the rocks I have to give some background. I did love my husband when we got married, but I wasn't ready for marriage. My parents forced me to marry him when I did for their and his my IL's benefit. I didn't like the fact that my parents basically sold me like a prize cow or that my husband went along with it and didn't seem to understand why that would make me feel badly. I tried to ignore these feelings, push them down because he wasn't a bad husband at all and our life was pretty good. When I got pregnant, I just couldn't push it down anymore and I started feeling this white hot rage whenever I was around him, our families. I started refusing to be the happy obedient wife daughter everyone was used to, so now things are on the rocks since none of them like my change in personality. Nah, he's worried about the health of the baby, but going about it all wrong. You're rightly fed up about his smothering, but also avoiding the issue instead of meeting the problem head on. Go see a DR together to prove you're getting enough nutrition. Talk about small things you can eat in the morning that don't make you feel gross and make him feel better that you have eaten something before he leaves for work. Take on isomer B6 and your prenatal vitamins. I had morning sickness, really all day sickness, for 5 months on baby number 1 and 7 on number 2. My partner was beside himself with worry on both our behalf because I looked so miserable. But we worked out what he could do that made me feel better and didn't do things that made me feel worse. Like I was not in any way going to drink the stupid soup my dad's Chinese friend made for me. It smelled awful and they never told us what was in it. I don't know why everyone is completely disregarding the part where you say that you've been pretending to be asleep every day to avoid your spouse. Is your husband being heavy-handed and unnecessarily OTT in his demands? Absolutely. Are you being stubbornly obtuse and refusing to engage with him? Absolutely. I can understand why he is worried about an eating disorder when you are actively avoiding him at mealtimes, OP. He also says you eat less than a child when you do eat. It seems pretty normal for him to be concerned if he's not seeing his pregnant wife eat. He shouldn't be so in his approach. It really sounds like he is fed up with your behavior. Pretending to be asleep until he leaves is a really immature thing to do and doesn't help with fixing your issues in the long term. Do not underestimate the damage you are doing to your marriage. Stonewalling is up there with some of the most hurtful acts you can commit against your spouse. Look up John Gottman. You have a baby on the way and it's time to stop playing games. You're both taking your behavior to extremes, on the opposite side of the spectrum, him aggressive, you avoidant, which is a pretty common pattern in dysfunctional relationships. You mention you have other problems, so I imagine this issue about food isn't the deeper problem going on. You're both acting silly. Get thee to the marriage counselors and learn how to communicate before you become